Hello human beings, PowerGamer here. Would you like to take a minute to talk about Donkey Kong Country 2? Honestly, the best response I've gotten all day.
Donkey Kong Country 2, Diddy's Kong Quest, The Monkey's Return. Easily the most beloved entry in the series, and arguably one of the most beloved 2D platformers of all time, right up there with Super Mario World, and Sonic the Hedgehog 2, and Mega Man X, and Shovel Knight, and Super Meat Boy, and Yoshi's Island. Okay, you get the idea. Either way, people love this game even more than the first one, which is already super popular. It was once again made by Rare, and development began shortly after the release of the first Donkey Kong Country. Since some people thought the first game was too easy, this one was designed to be much more challenging. Why does that sound familiar? They went through a handful of subtitles during development, but they settled on this one because it was a play on the words conquest, which to this day some people still get confused on. Once again, they used pre-rendered 3D graphics, but they wanted to alter the gameplay by making the levels less linear than before. They also wanted to surprise players by having the sidekick, Diddy Kong, be the main focus instead of Donkey Kong, but this meant they needed to make a new secondary character, which resulted in the creation of Dixie Kong, who actually had over 50 different options for her name during development, including Didine, Dee, Daisy, Dandy, Dolly, Dizzy, Danny, Dippy, Didding, Dairy, Dipsy, Daffy, Doofus, Dummy, Drakey, Drowsy, Drifty, Downy, Dusty, Drivey, Drowny, Drunky, Darny, Doopsy, Drafty, and Ducky. Donkey Kong Country 2 was released for the SNES on November 21st, 1995 in Japan, with other countries getting it in early December. Once again, it was a huge commercial hit, not as much as the previous games, but it still sold over 5 million copies, making it the 6th best-selling game on the SNES. And like I said, reception was overwhelmingly positive. To this day, is regarded as the best game in the Donkey Kong series and one of the best games on the Super Nintendo. And later on, it was even ported to the Game Boy Advance.
I played a little bit of this game before, but I never made it past the second area. I did enjoy most of what I saw though, so it's time I finally go through and experience the whole thing. This game is often considered the best of the Donkey Kong series, so let's put that reputation to the test.
The story takes place sometime after the events of the first game. One day, Donkey Kong was lying on the beach minding his own business when he was suddenly kidnapped by the Kremlings and brought to King K. Rool, now going under the title of Captain K. Rool, who wants revenge from last time. I don't know why he's a pirate now, I guess they were just in that year. He demands the banana horde be handed over, but Diddy Kong decides to save his uncle, so he heads to the Kremlings' home of Crocodile Isle alongside his girlfriend, Dixie Kong, who I should stress is from a different Kong family. I guess it's just a common last name, like Smith, or Johnson, or Renslayer. This is pretty much the same story as last time, but with slightly different characters and stakes, and it does the job. Much like the last game, the pre-rendered graphics are crazy impressive for the system. Although I will admit there are some issues with the visuals, since sometimes it can be a little hard to tell what's a platform and what's in the background. It doesn't happen often, but it is a problem at points. And also, like last time, the music is phenomenal. I'd argue this game's soundtrack is even better than the last one, since it has a great balance of atmospheric, energetic, and just outright fun songs. Of course, it's time for me to say one of my favorite phrases when talking about sequels. The gameplay is pretty much the exact same as before. A 2D platformer where you pick up barrels, collect bananas for extra lives, and kill enemies by rolling, jumping, and throwing. But since Donkey Kong is in the slammer, Diddy Kong is the starting character, and by breaking open the DK barrels, you can free Dixie Kong. Diddy controls exactly the same as he did in the last game, while Dixie is completely new. She's a bit slower and less nimble than Diddy, but she's not quite as strong as Donkey was. She does, however, throw her barrels in an arc like how Donkey Kong did, while Diddy rolls them, meaning they hit enemies at a lower angle. And instead of rolling, she does this little spin. Dixie's real claim to fame is her hair. If you jump in the air and hold the Y button, Dixie will spin around her conveniently shaped ponytail, which slows her descent. This is insanely useful since it allows for larger jumps, you can be more precise, and it makes killing enemies much easier. Dixie Kong is a great addition to the game. In the last one, Diddy Kong was overall better than Donkey Kong, but here they each have their own preferable situations. Diddy is better for combat and when you need to move fast, while Dixie is better for the more tight platforming. The two Kongs also have a new natural ability in that by hitting the A button, you can grab the other one and then throw them to grab items and reach new areas.
I really love what they did with the characters, but expanding the cast is only the start of what this game added.
This game also expanded a lot on the levels. Once again, the game is divided into 6 areas in the overworld map, and they have a bit more of a theme than last time, but there is a lot more variety in here than something like a 2D Mario game. We have Gangplank Galleon, which is a pirate ship, Crocodile Cauldron, a volcano, Krem Quay, a swamp, Crazy Kremland, an abandoned amusement park, Gloomy Gulch, a dense jungle, and K. Rool's Keep, which is Captain K. Rool's tower. Like last time, you face a lot of the same obstacles throughout the entire game, but what obstacles you face are different than previously. The most notable being that instead of swinging on ropes, you're mostly climbing up or down, or to the side, which makes the levels feel a bit different. Again, you're mostly just going through different biomes and fighting animals, but some of the more unique levels are Lava Lagoon, where you jump on these seals to cool off the water, Red Hot Ride, where you ride these balloons across lava, Glimmer's Galleon, where you use this fish to light the way, kinda like Squawks in the last game, Bramble Blast, where you shoot yourself out of barrels through this maze of thorny vines, these 3 Skull Coaster levels, which serve as the replacement for the minecarts, and the second one is awful since there's no checkpoint, Ghostly Grove, where you grab on these ropes that disappear, and Parrot Chute Panic, where you float through a beehive on this parrot named Quawks, which is awful. We of course have Animal Buddies once again, but the only ones that return and act the same are Rambi Diddy and Unguarde, although they do have this charge attack now, which you can do if you hold the A button, while Squawks returns too, but he works completely differently since you can actually ride on him this time instead of him just following you. He's the most integral to his level since you have to use him to fly around, he can spit out coconuts to kill enemies, and you can move faster by holding the D-pad. Instead of Winky, we have Rattly the Snake, who pretty much serves the same purpose of jumping higher, but if you hold down the A button, you can do the super jump, and since Dixie can glide naturally, we don't need Espresso anymore. Instead, we have Squitter the Spider, who is easily the best animal companion in the game. He spits webs with either the Y button, which takes out enemies, or the A button, which can create platforms. This is so helpful, it's almost game-breaking. Squitter may look kinda gross, and I would never want to see this thing in real life, but here, there is no one else I'd rather be with. Sorry, DK. Some levels even let you turn into the animals for a decent portion of them, which honestly leads to most of the annoying moments.
But by far the biggest thing this game expanded on was the amount of collectibles.
The last game didn't have many collectibles. There were plenty of secret rooms, but all those did was give you extra lives and increase your percentage meter. Here, the game is filled with stuff you can grab. Every level has one of these DK coins in them, which add to your percentage. In addition to the generic secret rooms, the levels now have bonus barrels in them, which fire you off to the bonus room, and these cannonballs, which you have to carry and put in cannons. Here you have to complete some challenge in a small time limit, like collecting stars, killing enemies, or just reaching the end of the course. If you succeed, you receive a Creme coin, which if you collect enough of, can lead you to some secret levels. And if you fail, there's no punishment, so you can just hop right in and try again. The most common collectible, though, is the banana coins, which are scattered throughout the levels, and unlike the other two, they don't have a finite number. These are needed for the various characters you find in the overworld. Remember all those other Kongs that were nice and helpful in the last game? Well, now they charge you for their services. Wow, even apes aren't immune to being corrupted by capitalism. Cranky Kong now resides in the Monkey Museum, where he once again gives you hints on where collectibles are. Funky Kong still gives you access to Funky's flights, and though you have to pay him, you only have to do that once per area. Just pay him one time and you can use that flight center whenever you want. But while they come back, Candy Kong has disappeared because since her boyfriend's not here, I guess she serves no purpose. Instead, we have the Kong College, which is run by Cranky Kong's wife, Wrinkly Kong. She can give you tips on how to play the game, but her main purpose is letting you save. And sadly, she's the inverse of Funky Kong, because while the first save in area is free, any repeats cost you 2 banana coins. Yeah, thanks for making my life even more annoying, you greedy old hag. But we also have something completely new in the form of Swanky's Bonus Bonanza. Here you can pay coins to Swanky Kong to play his trivia game, and if you answer the questions correctly, you get some extra lives.
And you're really gonna need those extra lives, because remember how I said earlier the developers made this game more challenging because a lot of people thought the first one was too easy? Yeah, I was not exaggerating.
While the last game was difficult at times, but overall pretty comfortable, this game can be absolutely brutal. It throws obstacles at you from all over the place. A lot of the time enemies can't be killed, or they're so annoying to kill, it's usually more beneficial to just run past them, and the actual platforming is much harder. So many of these levels require you to be painfully precise, and even the slightest mistake can lead to instant death. Hell, sometimes you just slip off the platform by barely moving an inch. It honestly gets pretty exhausting after a while, because without a doubt my biggest problem with this game is that it seems to be convinced that these platforming levels are Zelda dungeons. They just go on and on and on. It might not seem like these levels are long, but remember that there's only one checkpoint in each level, and because of how hard many of them are, it can take eons to finally finish them. I'm not joking when I say some of these levels can take over 20 minutes to beat. And if you run out of lives, you have to start the whole thing, and possibly previous levels, all over again. Thankfully, the game over screen doesn't feel like it's mocking you anymore, but it's still not pleasant. Now, I will say, the game gives you plenty of opportunities to get lives. On top of the swanky quizzes, you can still collect balloons, 100 bananas, and Kong letters, plus each level ends with this little target you have to jump on, which can give you a balloon, bonus bananas, or a banana coin. And then you see Diddy jamming with a boombox, or Dixie shredding on a guitar. But even with those additions, that won't be enough because of how brutal this game is. The most effective way to farm lives in this game is to just fly back to the first level, grab this balloon at the very beginning, and then press start and select to return to the overworld and then go back in. But even with this, these levels can be a nightmare. It also includes the worst type of hazard in video game history, wind. It blows you around, messing up your jumps, or you have to ride it upward, and I absolutely hate it. Unless you're sailing, wind is the most aggravating type of weather in the world, and I wish it did not exist.
It's a shame because the core gameplay here is a massive improvement over the first game, but with how unforgiving some of these levels are, it can be exhausting to go through them all. If they were a bit shorter or had more checkpoints in them, maybe it would be better, but as it stands, there are so many parts in this game that are just not fun.
Once again, each area ends with a boss fight, and thankfully there's a lot more variety than in the last game. We have Crow, who drops eggs on you, which you have to use against him. Cleaver, who's a haunted sword that shoots fireballs at you and then flies around trying to slash you. You gotta hit him with cannonballs. Kedgel, who jumps back and forth and stuns you if you're on the ground when he lands. After 3 jumps, he drops a TNT barrel that you have to throw at him, but you can't stand too close or else he smashes it. Next we have King Zing. Dang it, rats. Oh, come on. Are you kidding me? Oh, what the hell? How am I supposed to win this? Come on. Dang it. No. Come on, you stupid little...
Fuck you, you stupid bee!
This fight is fucking awful. For some some God knows why bullshit reason, during this fight you don't actually play as the Kongs, you play as Squawks. Yeah, because he's just so much fun, we had to use him for the boss fight. Well, you have to shoot coconuts at the beast's stinger as he flies around. Sounds simple, but the problem is this thing is smaller than a fucking ant. So it's nearly impossible to even see the thing, let alone know you're supposed to hit it. I thought you had to keep chipping away at him, but nope, I was just wasting my time. And because you have to get so close to hit him, it is really easy for him to bump into you. And since you only get one extra hit, you probably won't last too long. But you hit him 3 times and that's it, right? Oh, no, you poor innocent soul. He then shrinks and makes more singers, which spin around, and then you have to shoot those and then hit him another 3 times. If you take too long, the singers respawn, he moves faster as the fight goes on in both phases, and many times you can end up cornered because this parrot takes eons to turn around. So by the time you finally do and shoot him, you're fucking dead. I spent half an hour on this bumble bitch. I had over 20 lives when I reach him, and I still got a fucking game over! So help me, I will rip out every single bit of your insectoid body, you piece of shit. Come on, please, let this be over. Is he dead? Did I win? Yes! Yes!
Go fuck yourself, you abomination of life!
Next world has Creepy Crow, which is Crow but dead, and you have to jump on his vulture minions until a cannonball shows up. And this is the first fight in the series that actually gives you an extra hit. Now we finally reach the last world, which has some pretty generic levels until we reach Castle Crush, where you stand on this rising platform and have to avoid enemies. Then a few more levels until Toxic Tower, which is another castle only with rising acid. We reach Stronghold Showdown and find Donkey Kong, only for him to be hauled away. Yep, we have one last area, the Flying Croc, which only has one level, Screech's Sprint. It's another Bramble level where you have a parrot race and requires you to use this roll jump with Diddy Kong that I didn't know you could do until now. After that, we finally reach K. Rool Duel, the showdown between us and Captain K. Rool. This fight is split into 3 phases, each one separated by a fake-out win. He shoots cannonballs that you have to pick up and throw into his gun so it explodes. And every time that happens, he shoots at you, so you need to jump. During the first phase, he charges back and forth, dropping spike balls on the ground. Second phase, he shoots a barrage of balls at you that go forward, bounce, and spin, and you need to jump on the barrels. And the final phase, he disappears and shoots this gas that reverses your controls. It's a decent boss fight, and I'm really glad they let you restock your Kongs in between phases. When you beat him, Donkey Kong is saved, and he punches K. Rool off the mountain. Cranky congratulates you on your work, but also berates you for not collecting all the DK coins, followed by credits.
And that may look like the end, but sadly we've got a lot more to do.
Remember how completing the game last time just gave you some slightly different text at the end? Well, now it gives you an extra world to go through, so we need to collect 34 DK coins and all 75 Krem coins to get to it. By collecting the Krem coins, you can speak to Clubba in the overworld, and he gives you access to the 5 bonus levels that you have to beat, each one rewarding you with an extra DK coin for finishing the bonus level. And I know this is gonna sound weird, but I actually had a lot of fun with this. Granted, I was using a guide, but I think I enjoyed going for 100% more than the main game. Maybe it's because I was better, so the levels were easier, maybe it's because I didn't have to go through the whole thing since I could just quit once I got what I needed, but yeah, I seriously had a great time going for all these collectibles. Well, that is until we get to the actual bonus levels. The first 4 are tricky, but not impossible. Jungle Jinx is a level where you bounce on these tires, Black Ice Battle, you just slide down on ice, Clobber Carnage is just a bunch of barrels, and Fiery Furnace has moving barrels, so that's neat. But then we reach Animal Antics, which is by far the hardest level in the game. You have to go through small segments with all 5 animal buddies, and it is brutal. Okay, Rambi is fairly easy, but Ungarde section is pretty annoying. Squitters takes some practice, but even then it goes on a lot. And then Squawks is miserable, because for some reason, flying through this bramble wasn't hard enough. No. They decided to give it wind! What a**hole decided this really annoying section needed the worst hazard of all time? Seriously, this one segment is the most annoying part of the entire game. Okay, maybe second most. After that, you go to Ratley, which isn't too hard, but if you die, it is heartbreaking. I spent an hour on this level. It was absolutely brutal, and I beat it with literally no lives to spare. But once you do finish it, we get the true final boss. Captain K. Rool has returned, and this is actually easier than the last fight. He shoots a barrage of gas and cannonballs at you that you need to learn the pattern of, but when he shoots a barrel that breaks open to reveal a cannonball, you only need to hit him 1 time. He goes flying into the reactor, and the Kongs escape as the island is destroyed. Cranking congratulates us on getting all 40 DK coins, and the game is now 102% complete.
2 is one of the biggest mixed bags I have ever seen in my life. So many parts of this game are awesome, and the level design is great, but it is way harder than it has any right to be, which I'd be a bit more forgiving of if 1, you didn't have lives, 2, the levels were a bit shorter, or 3, they had more than one checkpoint in them, because so many parts of this game I was having a blast, and other parts I was just losing my mind. But with how much I enjoy going for 102%, maybe it's a game that gets better with some practice. If you're up for the challenge, I say give it a go, but only after you played the first Donkey Kong Country, since this one is not as beginner-friendly. And even then, for your first playthrough, I'd recommend using the Switch Online service, since the save states and rewind can save yourself some headache. But while you're doing that, I have some company to attend to. The Windmill Convention is in town, so I invited one of the representatives over for some lunch, and he should be here by now. Was it something I said?